I'm Andrea Williams with JDRF Pacific Northwest. I'm here today to ask Sean Saint a few questions. So Sean, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, Andrea. Thanks for having me here. My name is Sean Saint. I was the founder and CEO of Companion Medical, the developers of the InPen system, and I'm now the vice president of Companion Medical and Medtronic, post-acquisition by Medtronic.
Great. Thank you. I know we're all excited to learn more about the InPen and about Medtronic. So let's get right into it. So tell us, Sean, what is the InPen?
Well, an InPen is the first FDA-cleared smart insulin pen. And that's great. What is a smart insulin pen? So it's just like a normal insulin pen, but it transfers your doses over to your phone. And then the idea was that we provide a lot of the benefits of an insulin pump, although by no means all, on the phone. So things like, obviously, automatic tracking, right? We know what you did. You don't have to write it down in the logbook. Insulin on board, like somebody who uses a pump would have. We got that. A dose calculator like you get from a pump. We got that. And then ultimately the reports that you can share with your healthcare provider and review what you've been doing with them, both blood sugar, insulin, the whole bit integrated in one report, that's in there too. So that's really our definition of a smart pen, but it's going to evolve over time as we add features to it and make it more appropriate for a larger people.
Great, thank you. So this is so cool. So what inspired you to create the InPen?
A great question. So I've been in the diabetes industry for well too long, and I was actually diagnosed with type 1 myself about 10 years ago, and that was while I was designing insulin pumps. So I was all in on insulin pumps, still am, frankly. I think they're a great technology, but I was frustrated. A lot of us were frustrated because not everybody was using an insulin pump. Not everybody wanted to, and the industry was sort of separating out, saying, okay, the people who will use a pump, and then let's ignore these people over here. And that frustrated me, especially after my diagnosis. And of course, when you first get diagnosed, you're generally not on a pump, and I felt ignored, frankly. And I thought, wow, how do we bring the benefits of insulin pumps, this great technology, to people who use pens? And the answer to that was smart pens. I'm not the first guy to think of it. But when I went and looked, we really didn't find anybody who was doing it or doing it the way we thought it needed to be done. So we decided to do it.
That's awesome. Some real life experience. Patient ground zero.
I guess so.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. I mean, and talk about one way from, you were already in the industry, but you took it a step further by having that patient perspective and creating a product. That's really cool. So can you, you said that the InPen has kind of a dose calculator, kind of like the insulin pump capabilities. Can you tell us more about that and why that's important?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we think about dosing most medicines, right, you take your pill at 8 a.m. or whatever it is, and that's really simple. But insulin's the only medication that I can think of that we really vary our doses every day and throughout the day, as all of us know. Different size meals, we need different amounts of insulin for that. We all get that. But wait a minute, you're a little high as well. You woke up at 200 or 250 or whatever, you need some extra insulin for that. So now it's a bigger dose. But wait a minute, you already dosed when you woke up and now it's 2 hours later. You still have some of that active insulin on board. That's a little less insulin that you need. And calculating how much is left from that shot is actually really complicated. So when you do all that, you bring it all together, it's super complicated to get the right amount of insulin calculated any time that you need it. And we know most people can't do it. Nobody can do it. I certainly can't. So being able to just tell it, hey, this is how much I'm eating, this is my blood sugar, bam, that's how much insulin you should take. That's what we try to do. And pumps have been doing it for years, but MDI users just haven't had access to that. We didn't know why.
So you have that IOB, insulin on board calculator.
For me, that's the big one. Insulin on board is like a fourth order polynomial. It's super complicated to calculate. And geez, if I remember that I took a dose at 8 a.m. and I took 4 units, I could probably get ballpark of how much I have left at 10 a.m. But I don't remember that. I know I took one this morning and I can't remember how much it was. So I know that every time I look at my insulin on board, I get surprised. Sometimes I have a unit left, sometimes I have 3 units left in a situation that I would have thought was pretty similar. So that's been the bit for me that's most important to my own control.
From one type 1 to another. We never expected to be mathematicians, did we?
No, we sure didn't. And to be fair, I chose it a little bit with my career, so maybe a leg up there, but I didn't know it was going to be required in my life.
Yeah. So it sounds like the InPen has a log that would be very useful, just like pumps do.
Yeah, absolutely. You shouldn't have to pull open your diary and write down what you did every time. So we take care of that for you. How much and when. And on top of that, people ask me all the time, geez, what if my phone isn't there? No problem. The pen is memory, right? You can go on a hike with your pen and take whatever dose you want and then come back. You come back together with the phone, the information is going to go across. Again, you shouldn't have to do it. If there's one fundamental belief that we had at Companion Medical, it was that we wanted to reduce the burden of living with diabetes. And writing things down is one, calculating doses is another. Everything that you're going to see from us is all in an effort to just reduce that burden and make it easier.
So we asked the community for some questions for you. And one of the first questions I got regarding the InPen was, what colors does it come in?
Yeah. All right. So easy one. Softball, we'll start with that. It comes in pink, gray, and blue. And people always ask me why. And there's actually two reasons. Personal preference, obvious. But also, many of us use Lantus. It comes in a gray pen. Don't pick a gray InPen ideally. Or maybe you use Tresiba. That's a blue pen. Maybe don't use the blue InPen. So we tried to have it to eliminate drug confusion as well. To pick what you're not using for your basal therapy.
Oh, cool. That's great to know behind the colors. Again, as a user, I can imagine getting those confused. There's so much to keep track of as a T1D. So just having that kind of color recognition is important. So of course, big question from the community. What is the cost of InPen?
Yeah, that is an important one. And we've really tried to work hard to make sure that essentially nobody's going to pay more than $35 per year to be on the InPen. We recognize the cost is just a huge challenge of living with this disease. And we've tried to make it in such a way that it's really very affordable for everybody or almost everybody. And we feel we've done that with that. Again, $35 for almost everybody. And it's in many people, it's going to be less, by the way. A lot of people have $0 copays.
Great to know. All right. So how long does the InPen last?
It lasts a full year. But importantly, people always say, well, it's great, it lasts a year. But what I was really asking is how often do you have to recharge the battery? You don't. The battery lasts a whole year without recharging. And that was super important to us, right? One more thing you shouldn't have to do. I shouldn't have to remember when to charge my insulin pen. I don't have to charge it today. Why do I have to charge it? You don't. So yeah, the pen's gonna last a whole year. And then at the end of that year, we're gonna let you, on the reports, we'll let it's coming to an end. And the doctor knows you give me a prescription. And again, it's just $35 for the next year.
That's awesome. So there'll be like a push notification that lets you know the battery's dying?
Yeah, both on the phone, you'll get that, and then on the report as well. So the push is to the phone, and I believe we may even have some email things set up. I'm not certain of that right now. And then again, it'll be on the report to your doctor as well, so that when you're in there, you can write the next prescription.
That's great. I love that because, like you said, another thing to remember, another thing on the T1D to-do list is bringing those extra batteries, the cords to charge things. One more thing to remember. So it's great to hear. So you mentioned actually just a few minutes ago about some reports. So one of the questions we got from the community was, does the InPen have reports that I can send to my doctor?
Absolutely. And the way those are delivered is right on your phone. One of the tabs at the bottom of the app is reports. You can go to that. You can see your own data. The report is for your healthcare provider, but I'll tell you what, I look at mine and I think there's a lot to be learned from them. And that's one of the things we hear from our users all the time is, and I never looked at my reports before, but now I do. And then you can just hit that share button, you can email it, or you can even fax it right to your doctor. Yes, I know, ridiculous. We added fax to the iPhone, but they're healthcare providers. They still have those faxes in the office and they want it. So we added that functionality too.
Hey, there's still things I have to fax to the doctor. So the fax function is probably, I know I'm not the only one. So Definitely sounds like it's necessary.
Fortunately, we'll get past it once.
What's your personal favorite schematic on the report?
Ooh, that's a good one. So I like a couple things. Obviously, there's the average blood glucose analysis on there. It's always good to just take a quick look at that, say what's my average, what's my time in range. That is, of course, the kind of the snapshot of how I'm doing. But the other one I like is the overnight basal analysis. It's kind of an interesting one. What we do is if we have your blood sugar, if you use the CGM and we have your insulin, we can look overnight, you know, ballpark when you went to bed, when you woke up. We know what night you woke up and took insulin. We're not going to look at that. And we can say, look, on average, here's when you went to bed and here's when you woke up, and you're pretty flat, right? Your basal's right. Or maybe you're not. Maybe you're going up overnight, and maybe you're going to need some additional basal or what have you. And it's just kind of all analyzed right there, so you can just see it, not flip through your logbook and kind of look, okay, you know, here's one night, what happened the next night, and the next night. It's analyzed for you and for your healthcare provider to make things really easy. And I like that.
Yeah, that ease of the reports. I think I still cringe a little bit when I hear logbook.
We shouldn't have to do that.
Yes, it's 2021. We shouldn't have to, right?
Right.
So, you know, the InPen is fairly new. When did InPen start, or Companion Medical?
Well, Companion Medical was founded in 2013. But you know, small company developing a new product, got it FDA cleared, and then you got to learn how to manufacture it, hire a sales team. We sold our first InPen, I believe it was December 1st, 2017, if I'm not mistaken. And we had just one person in the field. And since that time, we've been slowly ramping up our sales force. And it's interesting, even if you had the money to go hire 500 people, you couldn't do it because they wouldn't know what to do. We had to hire one person to train person number 2, who could train person 3 and 4, you know, and go from there. So currently we have a pretty sizable sales force out there, but that's a relatively recent event with the acquisition by Medtronic.
That's awesome. So now, of course, it's been a couple of years since 2017. So what's the latest update on InPen? Are there anything to be looking forward to?
Oh yeah, so a lot I'm looking forward to that I probably can't talk about in too much detail. But what recently happened is we announced our real-time integration with Guardian Connect. So you can actually go to the InPen app and get, if you use the Guardian Connect CGM system, and get your current CGM. Go to one place for that snapshot of your diabetes. Here's my blood sugar. Here's my active insulin. This is what's going on right now, and know what you have to do or not do. And I was very excited about that. Within the last year, we launched our meal estimation notes. So we realized that what most people are doing is they're managing a little more on what we call meal estimation. Look, that's a medium lunch for me, and I take 5 units for a medium lunch, but I'm high coming into lunch and I still need a couple extra units for that. But I dosed about 10 a.m. and I still need to take some insulin off for that. So it's actually the same problem, needing a complex dose calculator to handle that, even though it's such a simple meal estimation thing. So we were able to launch the first ever meal estimation needing fixed dose, which is a bit of a misnomer for the same reasons, bolus calculator. I think it was back in April of last year. So that was a very big one as well. That really expanded who InPen was applicable for.
Cool.
Actually, if I may, Andrea, I'll say that we do have some really exciting stuff coming too, right? We've tried really hard to make InPen appropriate to a pretty large percentage of people who have diabetes. We're going to keep expanding that, right? There's definitely people that we're not applicable for yet, and just wait, I guess, we're coming. And then we want to continue to take that burden off your plate. If you have to do something today, we'd like to find a way to do it automatically or do it easier or more efficiently. So we continue to look at those things every day, and there really is some pretty exciting stuff coming. I said, what is a smart insulin pen at the beginning? We don't know yet. It's evolving, but I think this is the time when it's truly being defined, and we're excited to kind of lead the charge to do that.
That's great. Now, you mentioned this question or the answer to this question a few minutes ago, but the community did want to know. So there is an CGM integration, as you mentioned. So you said it works with the Guardian sensor. Are there other CGMs that it works with, such as the Dexcom?
Yeah, it does work with Dexcom. It does it a little bit differently. So we have a 3-hour delay with Dexcom. And if you look at sort of the way they share data and whatnot, that's generally how it works. But the data's there. It's in your report. So the healthcare provider can see 100% of your Dexcom data, 100% of your InPen data, carb data you may enter all in one place. So yeah, it is integrated with Dexcom. That's been a very important feature for healthcare providers as well.
Awesome. Okay. And you mentioned, so with the Guardian CGM integration, you only have to go to one kind of screen and it's real time, and Dexcom is delayed.
Dexcom's 3-hour delayed. So you would generally use either the widget or their app to check your blood sugar and then enter that into the.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. So one of the other questions that I got from the community was, how often do I have to change the syringe on the InPen?
Oh, well, good question. So the InPen is just like a normal insulin pen in that regard, right? So we've got the needle on the end, and we all know we're supposed to use a brand new needle each and every injection. Many of us do, maybe not. I might reuse that a little bit, but whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you do with normal injection therapy. And then the cartridge itself, it has 300 units in it, so that's the same as a traditional insulin pen. That's normally going to last about 2 weeks, give or take, but it can last as little as a day and as much as a full month. At the end of a month, the insulin is expired. They tell you to use these cartridges as well as pens themselves for only a month. And no problem. I don't know how I would ever remember that. We know how old the cartridge is, and we'll let you know about that. If you get to a month, we'll let you know that it's time to replace that cartridge with a new one. But if you put a new one in since then, don't worry, we're not going to annoy you. The other thing is, if at some point in the last month, you put it in the trunk of your car and you're in the Pacific Northwest and it's in the winter and it's cold and it froze, we know about that too. That insulin's degraded. We're supposed to keep it from freezing or getting too hot, but that's tough sometimes, especially with a pen. It's not always on us. So we'll know about that, and we'll let you know that your insulin could be degraded, and it might be time to think about replacing the cartridge as well.
Awesome. Checking another thing off our to-do list that we have to remember.
Ryan.
So you mentioned these cartridges. So what kind of insulin is available to put in these cartridges?
Yeah, so there are 3 insulins that are available in cartridge form. So that's Humalog, Novolog, and Fiasp, and we are indicated for all 3 of those insulins. As additional cartridges become available, we will continue to work to get indicated for those as well.
Okay. So another question from the community was, do I have to have a certain phone to use the InPen?
Good question. So we work with iOS, I think it's 10 and higher, and Android 6 and greater. So that's most smartphones out there. So you definitely need to have one of those. But if you have either a reasonably new Android or a reasonably new iPhone, it should be just fine. That's
great that there's lots of options for patients to use. I know so often with T1D, our phones is so much of our care. So people are always asking about which phone to have and which one works well. So it's great to have those options.
We haven't seen it be a huge problem, but in the corner case where you do end up with an InPen and for whatever reason you have a phone compatibility problem, obviously we're going to work with you on that. I think a reasonable expectation is that it works with all phones. Okay. Not quite there, but pretty darn close.
Pretty darn close. It's okay. I only know my parents that still have iPhone 6s. So
it probably works.
Perfect. So big question, probably all the community wants to know is, how do I get an InPen?
Yeah, well, we've tried to make that super easy too, right? So first thing I would always suggest is, if you're interested in InPen at all, go to the App Store, go to the whichever one you use, and download the app. You can search for it. It's just InPen. And first thing you'll see is a form that says Get InPen. There's a button, and if you care to, you fill out your information, and we'll contact you. We can get you an InPen that way. Alternatively, obviously, go to your doctor. Ask for an InPen there. Not everybody's familiar with InPen yet, but we have all the information on the web and everything else to be able to get that information to them. Of course, they all have their electronic sales reps they can ask the questions to. So always ask your doctor about it.
Great. That's great that they can just download the app and be able to click get an InPen. Because sometimes there's waits between the endo appointments or when they're going to see their Medtronic rep next. So it's awesome to have those options.
Yeah, and that's been super well received because you're right. You shouldn't necessarily have to go in to be able to get access to a new technology. And when you do that, we can, there are ways to just get it shipped straight to your home too. Make it easy on everybody.
Alrighty, so Sean, say I have an InPen. How do I get trained on the InPen?
A great question. So when your InPen actually comes to your home or you pick it up at the pharmacy, you can generally unbox that thing and set it up on your own. We have a setup wizard in the app. We're going to walk you through everything that you need to do, no problem. That being said, we would always recommend that you reach out to your healthcare provider to talk about what the InPen is, what it does for you. If you're coming from a pump, you may be familiar with insulin on board or dose calculators. If you're coming from MDI, maybe not. It's always a good idea to talk to your doctor about things like that. But in addition, once you've paired your pen, we're going to reach out to you proactively with our Start Right team. And we're going to see if you have any questions that we can help with. And that really is one of the benefits for Companion Medical of partnering with a company like Medtronic that has the resources to be able to do things like that frankly, we couldn't have done as a small company. And we're so proud to be able to have now.
That's great. Couple different options to get training and get that InPen all set up. Sounds like you have a good team for support as well if people have questions. So I know with insulin pumps, you can have different schedules of how much insulin you need, different therapy settings for the time of the day. Can we also do that with InPen?
Yeah, of course. If you're going to be doing dose calculations, then we really felt we needed to provide that same functionality of a pump. I mean, people do have different sensitivity factors throughout the day, different carb factors, et cetera. So we provided all that same functionality that you're used to from your pump if you've been there before. Yeah, absolutely.
Great. So that is actually all of the questions I have from the community. Sean, is there anything I missed? Is there anything else you think is really important for all of us to know?
I believe that there's this stigma. We talked about this in a previous couple hours ago. It's kind of a stigma around MDI. There's this expectation that if you're not on a pump, you're doing something wrong, or you don't care, you're apathetic, or what have you. And I really want to break that. I just think that it's wrong. There are people getting tremendous outcomes on pens. I'm one of them. I put my outcomes up against any closed loop trial ever done. And I just would feel better if we accepted as an industry and that we accepted the fact that people they need to manage their disease in different ways. And they can get fantastic outcomes with injections. However, it makes it easier when you have access to some of those same technologies from pumps. And that's the point of InPen. That's the point of smart pens generally. And I'm excited to hopefully change that stigma a little bit for people like me and others that I know that are getting fantastic results with pens.
Thank you, Sean. Breaking the barriers of MDI. I like it.
There you go.
So, Sean, where would someone go to ask questions about the InPen, just in case we didn't cover it here today?
Yeah, I'm sure we missed something. Feel free to go to the website, myinpen.com, or you can always download the app. In there, you can actually go to help and support and call support directly right from the app, which is kind of cool. Or reach out on social at myinpen.
Well, thank you so much, Sean, for being here today and spending some time with our JDRF community. I know I personally learned a lot. I'm sure the community has learned a lot. So thank you so much for taking the time during your busy schedule to be with us here today.
Thanks so much for having me, Andrea.
Of course. Bye, everyone.